Welcome back to the tailgate where we bet college football player props. What? Those are available? You can bet those? Yeah, there's a lot of value. It's a lot of fun. I'm Tim Kalinowski, joined by Mike Calabrese. We went 4-0 in week one, 3-2 last week. So that still seems to me, Calabrese, those are winning numbers. Let's see if we can keep it rolling, eh?
Absolutely. Let's get started with an SEC game. Jaden Daniels and the LSU Tigers traveling to Stark Vegas. Klanga. I know it's a little bit scary, but those fans won't be on the field for Mississippi State because their pass defense is horrific. They need any help they can get. They're 88th nationally against the pass, and you saw it last week against Jaden DeLaura and Arizona. He throws for over 70% completions, 342 yards. And they're a gambling style defense. They love to go for the turnovers. They get 4 picks in that game and they survive in overtime. But against Jaden Daniels in this game, a better offensive line for LSU. I don't think he'll be under quite as much duress. And I love the LSU receiving core. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. I think they're going to pop off in this game. 251 is the number out there in the market. I'm going to go over on this one.
Love that. Yeah, Neighbors caught my eye as well for a possible touchdown. I remember you were on his over 6.5 touchdowns in our preseason show, so that caught my eye as well. Might sprinkle a little bit on Neighbors touchdown there, but I'm going to stay in the SEC here. Jaden McGowan, the Vanderbilt wide receiver. Yeah, this is not a replay. I picked him again, basically the same number, cashed by about third quarter or so, and I'm going right back to the well. Listen to McGowan's last 3 games, okay? 6 receptions, 72 yards. Next game, 6 receptions, 70 yards. What's the next game? 6 receptions, 72 yards. His number is still 54.5. Over. I mean, I'm going to be playing it until it doesn't hit. I love this guy. I might have to go get a Jaden McGowan jersey.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to fire up an NIL situation. At least you can have a direct payment plan to him, because if it ain't broke, why fix it? You might as well ride this until the brakes come off. And UNLV, with the Barry Odom defense in a year 0 rebuild, at least on the defensive side of the ball, I don't see them slowing down this Vandy offense. It's a wagon. Just is weird to say that, for Vanderbilt, but it's strange bedfellows when it comes to college player props. And I think if I told you a month ago you'd be riding with a Vandy wide receiver, you'd be like, I don't know if I want to do this content with you. But here we are. They're winners. So let's keep the winners going. I'm going to go with an under. Drake May. His number for passing here in week 3 is 265.5 yards. And this, to me, is a classic situation of the casuals, the public, looking at the board and saying he's going to be in the conversation to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. That's great. Phil Longo's gone, which means his pass attempts have gone down. His yardage has gone down. He's only averaging 238 yards per game thus far this season. And he's up against a Minnesota defense. A little quick pop quiz here. How many yards per game do you think the Minnesota pass defense is surrendering?
I would say about 141.
What if I told you that they were only giving up, let me make sure I can triple check this, 92.5 yards per game. What is this, 1933? Are they playing against Amos Alonzo Stagg? Like, this is ridiculous.
What's this, Otto Graham?
Yeah, this is absolutely insane, but it makes sense because you look at the last 4 or 5 years, Minnesota's had a top 15 pass defense. It's all about Joe Rossi, their DC. He puts opposing passing games in a vice grip, and he's going to do the same here. I think on top of it, Minnesota is a live dog, and they'll try to shrink this game with their running game against Nebraska, against Eastern Michigan, which was a 9-win team last year, and a bowl winner as well. Still holding those 2 teams to 92.5 yards through the air. So to me, I think this is a no-brainer because of the scheme, because of the pass defense, and because of the game flow. I'm going to go under on Drake May's passing yards here.
I'm glad you went there. I was looking at Minnesota receivers, I was trying to decide, is this game going to play into North Carolina's favor or is it going to play into Minnesota's favor? I'm glad I didn't touch it because my dumb brain would have leaned towards going in North Carolina's favor. So I like that. I think I'm going to be on that May under as well. Always love when I can play star quarterback under. It makes you a little uncomfortable, but you got to do it. You got to do it. So yeah, that's why I'm playing right here. A quarterback's over. That would be Chandler Morris, TCU. TCU's playing Houston. Houston, I don't care. Houston can't stop a nosebleed. Chandler Morris is over under for passing yards is 272.5. I have over. He went for 279 against Colorado in week 1. He went for 263 against, Nicholls State. Now, what does that even matter? But again, I think TCU just throws the ball around. I think that's a high scoring game. Crazy things happen when Houston plays just about anybody. So I like that Morris over passing yards.
It's weird. It's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation with Doug Belk, the DC for Houston. He's had years in which he's fielded a top 15 defense. They've been high on havoc. They've gotten to the quarterback. They've made life really difficult on opposing offenses. And then last year they gave up 77 points to SMU. And as you pointed out, this year has not been going so smoothly for the Houston defense. Yes, in the opener against UTSA, they looked good, but UTSA was dealing with, half of a deck. They didn't have their receiving core. Frank Harris, had an injury to his foot. And then they come back against Rice, and Rice throws it all over the yard. So I agree with you. I think you've talked me into this one. I think I'm going to go Chandler Morris over as well.
Yeah, talk you into it. When JT Daniels throws for 400 on you, okay, you're going to have to take a look.
He's going to get so excited he's going to transfer again. So let's close this one out with another over at the quarterback position. Joe Milton over 251.5 yards against the Florida Gators. Tennessee traveling down the swamp, a place they haven't won since 2003. To me, the strength of the Florida defense is their run defense. They're top 25 on that side of the ball. And when you look at what Tennessee has done in the first 2 weeks, they played Virginia, they played Austin Peay. They were happy to just run the ball. In this game, I think that game script has to change a little bit. I think you're going to see Joe Milton put the ball in orbit more. And when you look back at last year, I know that Hendon Hooker is a quarterback who is more established. He accomplished more. Joe Milton is aspiring to get to that level. But in games that Hendon Hooker played the whole way without injury in the SEC, he threw for 295 yards per game. So I see something similar here. They're going to need that kind of output from Milton in this game to be able to get over the hump. They're less than a touchdown favorite. I think this is going to be a seesaw game back and forth. You're going to see him play all 4 quarters, and they can't just rely on the run game. So I'm going to take a number that I think is depressed a little bit by 10 to 15 yards. I'll go over on Milton. What do you think of that one?
I get nervous any sort of over on Milton because I have an agenda. I'm just not a believer in him. I was a huge fan of Hendon Hooker, and I just think that the media was so quick to say that Milton is just going to be a seamless transition from Hooker. But if you tell me that the number was a little bit depressed because of the game script from the past 2 games, and I'm not Calabrese, I don't want anything to do with Florida. Okay, so it ain't that tough to talk me out of any sort of pro Florida love.
Yeah, I mean, thoughtfully, I wanted to get into Graham Mertz's rushing totals, but I don't want to, push our luck too much after giving that out in our week 1 picks. I think we went under on his rushing yards at 0.5, and it landed on -29. So maybe we'll go back to the well at some point for Graham Mertz if he doesn't get pulled for Jack Miller III. Anything else on the board that caught your eye that was potentially in the cutting room floor for you here in week 3?
I was going to ask you about, so I was looking at Indiana and Louisville. That game, maybe I'm just a square over here, but Indiana caught my eye from playing Ohio State pretty tight, at least to making Ohio State work for it. And then Louisville, obviously, the Braum era is here. And I don't know, I liked Indiana in that game, but I couldn't really get it a number on a prop that I like, especially with Jackson now taking over the quarterback position for Indiana.
Yeah, I think there's certainly some questions about this game in general. And at this point in the season, you get a bit of fool's gold where it's like, was Ohio State just rusty and their quarterback situation kind of, left them in neutral offensively, where you had McCord looking over his shoulder to Devin Brown the whole game? Or was it a legitimate, Allen defense in which Indiana can really gum up the works? I'm not sure. I want to see a larger sample size before I get into bed with any Indiana overs or unders.
Yep, that's how I feel as well. We need more data. We only had a couple of weeks here at Calabrese, but it's been a ton of fun. We've had some winners. Let's keep it going. Enjoy your weekend. Not a lot of great games out there, but hey, they all got point spreads. A lot of them got player props. That's why we do it.
Appreciate your time. Let's have another winning weekend. And then next week we can get back to an anytime touchdown, first touchdown. That's when I'm feeling spicy. I want to make sure that we get a winning week in here, and then we can start flexing a little bit.
Yep. Gotta put the work in. Then we can flex. That's a wrap. Have a great weekend, Calabrese.
Take care.